Hi guys, it's Chris Van Hillo with the City of Tampa's Visual Arts team. Welcome to our weekly Art Attack Zoom jewelry class. Today is week 2 of Resin. So before we get started, here is the first project that I did last week. And on these projects I used fabricated silicone molds that I bought on Amazon. We'll take a look at those in a minute. I also used transparencies to print off song lyrics that I liked. So this is compliments of the Beatles. And I used alcohol inks to color my resin. This week I'm going to show a different type of necklace that I made where I built my own dams using wire, glue, tape, and also transparencies. So let's get started. You can buy these prefabricated silicone molds. You can get them as a set in one big piece, or you can get the little individuals, which is kind of fun. But they all have a little hole, they have a little rod in there to make the holes. Here's one, and you can see that it has the little hole in there, okay? But if you had small song titles, you know, you literally could take this like I did with the little Parks and Rec logo here, and you could lay it down on top of your transparency. You could trace around it, and you would know exactly what size to cut it. And then you would put your transparency inside this mold and pour your resin on top. What we're going to do is we are going to make little wire wraps for all our little song lyrics. So the tools you're going to need today, you're going to need your round nose pliers, chain nose, or your flat nose pliers, a pair of wire cutters, flush cutters if you have them, 20 or 22 gauge wire. I found that by using this embroidery floss, you can determine what size you need your wire to be. Okay, let's say I want to do the first one here. I'm going to take my embroidery floss and I'm just going to wrap it around my lyrics, and I'm going to leave a nice long tail at the top, okay, about like that. So that's how long I need my wire to be. About 9 inches. Okay. As you do a couple of these, it gets a lot easier to try to figure out what size you need. So using 20 gauge artistic wire, I think 9 inches is going to be way too big personally. I think I went a little overboard on that. But let's just go ahead and I'm going to do a 7 inch, okay? Let's just do a 7 inch. I'm going to cut that. And then I'm just going to kind of try to guesstimate my halfway, and I'm just bringing those two ends up toward the center. Then I'm going to take my round nose pliers and I'm going to do pretend I'm doing a wrapped loop. So my pliers are parallel with the table. I'm going to leave a little bit of a tail here, so that's maybe about a 1 inch tail. I'm going to push that tail away from me. I'm going to pick my pliers up and rotate them. I'm going to bring that tail up and over. The smallest loop possible, we're going to be as close to the edge as possible. And if we want the loop larger, we're going to be as close to the inside as possible. Okay, so now I have that little question mark. I'm going to reapply my round nose pliers through the bottom. And I'm going to bring that little loop parallel with the table. So it's going to kind of look like that. Everybody see that? Okay. Then I'm just going to take it. I can use pliers or I can use my fingers, and I'm just going to wrap it around one. I'm going to try to get it around 2 times. Okay, there we go. And then I'm going to cut off that little bitty tail right there. Okay, and then I'm just going to crimp that down. And it's going to look like that. Okay, now I'm going to take the other side and I'm just going to bring that over. I'm going to bring where it's intersecting there, and I'm just going to hold it with my thumb. So I have a little bit of a loop there. So with my lyrics here, I could lay it down. So Mother, Mother Ocean, I've heard your call. Okay, yeah, I should have gone a little bigger. That's going to be a little bit too small, see? But that's okay because I got a bunch of other ones. It would fit on that one. it would fit on that one. So where it intersects here, I'm just going to hold it down with my thumb. We do our loop up and over, and I'm just using my fingers, and then when it gets too small to use my fingers, I can continue to wrap it up and over, and then I'm just going to cut that little tail off as close as I can get, and then I'm going to crimp that down, and I have my little piece of wire. Okay, it got a little bent, no big deal. I'm just going to take my round nose pliers and I'm just going to kind of, you know, straighten it back out. I can either bring it this way or I can bring it this way and straighten it back out. You could probably even use your fingers, okay? So that's all we're doing, is we're creating a little surface area for all our lyrics. So that would work with that one. It could work with that one. You can also, you can take your fingers and you can pull this. You could make it a different size, okay? You know, that would fit on that one right there. Look at that. So you can, this wire is really malleable, and you can, you know, you can lay it on the table and kind of push down, and you can do all kinds of things. But what you're going to want is you're going to want a piece of this wire for each one of your drapes that's going to come down on your necklace. So on this little guy, I only had 2, but on the one that I'm doing today, I'm literally going to have like 18. I mean, this is going to be a very bohemian necklace, okay? Okay, so what I'm going to suggest to you is get your wire out and start making all your different loops. If you don't feel like doing the loops, no big deal. You can buy the little silicone molds. There's all kinds of them on Amazon. There's rectangles, there's circles. You use these, you can lay them down on top of your song lyrics, and you're going to use your transparency. Okay, so if you're using the prefabricated ones like these, your font's probably, you're not going to be able to go as large with your font. I know when I was using these, I had to go with a smaller font, which made the text a little harder to read. I don't know if you can see that. A little harder to read. And when I use the alcohol inks, I just had to make sure that I don't use too dark of a color. I tried a couple of different ways of experimenting with this, and the first time I did it, I just simply used the wire, and I put tape around the edge and brought the tape up, kind of made a little dam, and then I added the resin. Now on this one I added too much resin, and it filled up it filled up where my loop and my wrap is. No problem. I was going to pull this one apart just to show you guys. When you do the resin, I'm thinking, yeah, we're not going to pour it in. We're going to use like a dropper or a popsicle stick or something. But this is how I created my little dams. And we're going to do that differently today. So it actually worked, but I used too much. These are those fun little curved tubes that I used a couple weeks ago in a project. And I can actually take an X-Acto knife and cut this resin off of here. So this still works. It's a little bit, I don't know if you can see it, a little bit funky because you can see it on the sides here. But what we're going to do today is, using our paper, we're going to put our piece of wire down like this. And we're going to take a pencil and we're just going to trace around that wire. Okay, going to have to move your fingers around a little bit. Okay, then we're going to take our transparency and we're going to line up our writing. You could also just take a piece of tape and tape that, which I think I'll do so it doesn't shift on me. Okay, unfortunately, you're going to need to use some scissors. I hate to say fabric shears, but you're going to have to use something that will really cut well through this. And I'm going to write on the line. So Okay, so now I have my transparency cut, and I'll put this down on a piece of white paper. Hopefully you'll be able to see that. And then this is going to go, whoops, sorry, wrong piece of wire. Psych! Okay, that's going to go here, okay? All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to tape this, and then we're going to add some glue. And we're going to let that glue dry, and then we will pour our resin in. And the glue, along with the wire, is what's going to create our dam. So we're going to need a piece of wire, and we're going to need a dam for every single one of our lyrics, or our lines to our poem, or our family photographs, or whatever it is that we're going to use. So this is not a project that you're going to finish in an hour. This is a project that's perfect for a pandemic, because you're stuck at home and you can work for an hour or so and then stop. We are going to do all our resin at one time. So let's talk about that for a second. I have a handout. I guess I'll email it to you all, but I really think it's important. I really want to talk about resin. It's a very toxic chemical, and so I want to make sure everybody is really taking this seriously. Very important that you wear goggles. Very important that you wear a mask. And when I say a mask, I'm not really necessarily talking about these homemade masks we've been making. If you've got an N95 or a respirator at home, be wearing that. If all you have are the cloth masks, that's cool, but make sure it's a nice sturdy one. So you want to be wearing masks. You want to be wearing rubber gloves. You don't want this stuff touching your skin, and you want to be in a well ventilated area. So for in here in the studio, I have reversed all the ceiling fans. Make sure that you're taking the PPEs seriously, that you're protecting your lungs and your eyes. Make sure, please make sure that you do that. Also, very important that whatever kind of resin you buy, here is the product that I bought on Amazon. And it comes in two parts, an A and a B, okay? There will be very specific instructions telling you how to use this product. I have not found a product yet that gave different instructions. It's a basically 1-to-1 ratio. So you're going to mix part A, side A, whatever they call it, with side B. And it doesn't matter how much you mix. The only thing that's important is that you mix equal 1-to-1 ratio. So for us, because we were doing little jewelry, we were using these little medicine cups that come with, you know, NyQuil and stuff. The kit this stuff that I bought actually had the little measuring cups in it, which is kind of cool. You mix bottle A with bottle B. This is just like the Loctite 2-part epoxy. There is a chemical reaction, so it has to be in equal components. So you're going to slowly mix this up. You don't want to introduce bubbles, so you're not going to be whipping it like eggs that you're getting ready to throw on the stove. You're going to just be trying to move this around, maybe with a popsicle stick or a toothpick or whatever, and in that mixing and moving, it kind of goes milky, and then it'll kind of go back to being translucent, and then you'll know it's time to get started. I'm just taking some good old-fashioned wax paper. You could probably use parchment paper to lay my transparency down. And actually, I'm going to use some blue painter's tape. I'm going to take some tape and I'm going to lay it down on top of the transparency, and then I'm going to cover the entire transparency with some tape. Okay, and then I'm going to pick it up, and now I have my transparency there. Okay, I'm going to lay that down. Put this down over the top, so can everybody see? Alright, and keep your finger in the middle maybe so it doesn't keep sticking on the tape. Okay, but I was kind of hoping that it would maybe tape that wire down a little bit. And it did. Okay. I take my glue, and I'm not going to do it on the inside. I'm going to do it on the outside. And I'm just going to run a line of glue all the way around that wire. And I'm going to let that glue dry. And when the glue is dry, then I can fill this with resin. Now, on the one that I showed you that I took apart a little while ago, where I had put the tape up over the sides, it's I think by using the glue, it will prevent the resin from seeping under. And I'm not sure it seeped under. I think it really came over the top. I'm not sure here. But we're going to try this and see if this works. So we're going to let that glue dry. I imagine a hot glue gun would work as well. But I'm just going to let this glue dry. And then when it's dry, we will fill it with resin. And that is how we are going to build our dam. So I've taken one of these little medicine cups, and I've marked a little black Sharpie at the 5 and at the 10. And because I'm just doing these two little things, I don't have to mix up a whole big bunch. So I'm going to take the A, and I'm going to pour it to the first black line. And then I'm going to take the B to the second black line. And then I'm going to take my stick and stir it up and go around, but I'm just trying to be really, really gentle because I don't want to introduce bubbles. I may speed up the video, but if I speed up the video, you're not going to go that fast, okay? And if I took this close to the camera, you could probably see there are lots of little bubbles in there. I got my torch at the ready just in case I need it, because I have a feeling I am going to need it. And actually, I think I can just pour this in, because it's a pretty thick mold. You don't want to overfill, so alright, I think I did a pretty good job on that one. And I'm just going to pour this in. And I think I did a pretty good job on that one. Let's see if I can pour let's see if one of these is dry. This is the first one I did right here. So I'm just going to go ahead. I said I was going to use my stick and not pour, so I'm just going to use my stick and try to drop this in. Kind of smear it around, take it to the sides. Maybe, hell, I'm just going to pour it in. Okay, but I'm just going to pour a little bit in and, start moving it around to the sides. I'll pour a little more. Just kind of start moving it around to the sides. Make sure I get it all the way to the side. And then I'm going to take some light color alcohol inks, maybe the yellow, and put a drop there. Put a drop there, put a drop there. I see that the alcohol inks, it's over the top here. I don't know how that hit. I guess I put too much. Darn it. Hopefully it's just hitting the glue. Here are the two little earrings that I had put in the molds. And I want to show you how easy these are to pop out. I mean, I'm literally popping that mold and they fall right out. Just popped one of these little guys out, and I want to show you how I did that. So I had taped these down yesterday. Here was the first one that I had done. I'm going to remove the tape, and then I'm just going to pry this away from the tape. You can use an X-Acto knife if you want to get underneath there. Remember, I had all that glue So it's the glue that's, you might need to pierce the glue. Just kind of walking it around the side to get that glue to pick up. And I'm just going to keep walking it up, and then eventually I'll lay it down and try to pull it off. I don't know if you can see how it kind of has some schmutz up there. So we need to just take an X-Acto knife and just trying to cut that away a little bit. I realize it's kind of hard to see because it's a transparency. You're seeing the table through, so maybe you can see it better now. Something I was reading about last night was talking about taking your transparency and kind of like painting on the resin and then laying the wire down on top, and that way it would not be too thick, and once it dried it would adhere the wire to it. So I am going to get set up right now to try that little experiment. As I was working on these just now, I was thinking to myself, wouldn't it be great if I had a way that I could attach these two? And yes, you could drill a hole, but these are so fine, I'm kind of afraid to drill a hole. So I decided to put a loop on both ends. So if I wanted to, I would have a way to attach like that. Okay, so I'm going to show you guys how I did that. So in order to have we want to have a hook at the top, little loop at the top and at the bottom, because that way on some of these singles that we have, you know, we could attach like that. So like on these are all going to have to hang separate because they don't have a little loop. But if they did have a little loop, I would be able to double them up. So I'm going to show you how I did the little loop. It's very simple. You are going to take your ruler, and I'm going to cut this. I'm going to go 7 inches on this one. So from here to here is 7 inches. I'm going to cut this. Why did I put this paper under me? Okay. Okay. Then at the halfway point, which would be right at about 3.5, I'm going to grab my round nose pliers and I'm just going to put it on that little piece of wire. I'm going to be close down here to the bottom because we know that's going to give us the smallest hole. Okay, so I'm going to push this away and I'm going to bring it all the way down, and then I'm going to go ahead and bring it up and over so that it looks like this, and I have a little loop right there. Can everybody see the little loop? Okay, so all I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and put my round nose back in there. All I'm going to do is, and it's important that whatever wire is on top, that's the direction you're going to twist. So, and actually I think I came up a little too much. All right, so I'm just going to twist 1, 2, and I'm going to twist 2 times. Okay. Now I'm just going to go ahead and kind of, you know, bend my wire to bring it back up toward the center. Okay, like that. Kind of training myself to use my baby finger, and if I go from my first knuckle to the end of my baby finger, that is perfect size for me to do a little wrap. So I'm going to go ahead and straighten that out. Now, as you can see down here, it's bent, and we want this to lay as flat as possible so that it adheres to the resin. So again, we're going to look at this and see which way it's rotating and continue to rotate it in that direction, so now it lays a little bit flatter. Okay, just play with it and see which side lays the flattest, and then that's the size you're going to use. So you can either do your wraps single, like this one, like these, or you can go ahead and do them double, which will allow you to have 2 dangling at a time. Okay, great idea, Chris. All right, so can you see all those bubbles in there? There's a lot of bubbles in there. So I'm going to take my torch and I'm going to try to zap those little bubbles, okay? So here we go. Can you see what just happened? They just disappeared, didn't they?